Okay, I'm going to talk about the settings on a sewing machine. For me, my zigzag stitch is this dial here, but always look for a symbol that looks like that. That typically means zigzag, and that will change the stitch width. So that's going back and forth, back and forth. You can go from a very narrow, which is 0, or no, it's not going to go back and forth, to 1 would be very narrow, all the way to 5, which would be the widest. Okay. Now my middle one has a needle position, so right up and down it's in the middle. If I go to the left, my needle position moves over. If I go to the right, it moves over to the right. So for any stitching, I want it straight up and down. This is only for my buttonhole. So this is an automatic buttonhole feature. So the other stitch to look for on your machine is this dotted line. Okay, this is your stitch length. That goes all the way from 0. Again, that wouldn't move. All the way up to 5, which would be your basting stitch. The largest straight stitch is your basting stitch. This symbol here means reverse. So on my machine, I have to lift this up, hold it while I want to go backwards, and then let go to go forward again. So I'm going to do a little sample stitch here. I'm on 0 width. I am on 2.5 length. Okay, that's the halfway point. That is your basic straight stitch. Okay, so check your settings every time you sit down to make sure you're on the stitch that you want. Okay, so I'm going to put my fabric in, lower my presser foot. I want to go a few stitches forward, hold the reverse, go a few stitches backward, and continue on my way. My speed is regulated by my foot. Some people have a speed regulator on their machine, but mine is just regulated by how hard I press on the speed pedal. I'm going to reverse before I get to the end, and I'm done. Now, take a look right here. Even though the needle position is up and this is up, it has not completed its stitching. If I go and I take this out, which it should come out just fine, okay, what's going to happen sometimes is that I go to start again and the needle comes unthreaded, okay? You always want to finish with this thread uptake at the very top. So it's probably not going to do it now because I want it to. Okay, it didn't come unthreaded. But anytime you finish, you want to turn your hand wheel towards you until the thread uptake is at the very top. That will ensure that every time you go to stitch, you're not going to run into problems. Now, let's see what happens if I don't bring it up even partially the way. So this is, the needle is up, but this is very low. If I go to pull this out, it's stuck, okay, because it has not completed its thread cycle. So, but if I turn my hand wheel till this goes all the way up, back up, pulls out just fine. Okay, so that's a common error that a lot of people make, is just paying attention to this right here. Okay, if you go to stitch and the top looks good, but the underside is a mess, chances are you have missed the threading of this. Okay, if you go and stitch and it's a mess on top, but it looks good underneath, chances are you missed threading that little metal spot right there with the bobbin. Okay, if you have a top loader, it's very similar. So pretend this is your bobbin casing for a top loader. Okay, and you're going to be putting it in as a letter P. Okay, so thread is counterclockwise. You drop it in. Don't immediately pull to the side. It has to go through that little crack, and you have to look close. It's got to drop down in and then pull to the side. Usually it looks something like that. Okay, so make sure, do not miss that step or this step. Those are the two main problems when threading a machine.